Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Michael Kachmar, and this is Lifeguards Off Duty with Dr. Michael Kachmar. Today's date, what's today's date, Guy? Today's is December 27th, the year of our Lord, 2021. And we have a guest in our studio today, and we're all excited about this guest. He's we don't say ex-lifeguard. He's still a lifeguard. See, we don't say ex-Marines. You say, a former or still a lifeguard, but former. We never say ex. Don't ever say ex. And don't ever say ex to a Marine because, you're never ex. So once
What
you're a
about
lifeguard.
girlfriends?
That's something different. Anyway, so I just want to say hello. This is Sean.
Hello.
Hello, Sean. We have our guest. Hello, guest.
What up, everybody? Nick Caputo.
Nick Caputo. And we have
How's everyone doing?
Tyler. I like your hat, Tyler.
Thank
What's
you.
that shirt you got? What is that?
This is a Christmas present I got from my girlfriend.
Oh, it's really nice.
It's a Manchester United. I think it's like a warm-up sweater that they used. It's from 1997.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. Vintage footballshirts.com.
That's nice. That's nice. All right. So, Sean, can you put up this is for our viewers. We have some contact information. So I'm Dr. Michael Kachmar. I'm a board certified reconstructive foot and ankle surgeon, doctor of podiatric medicine. So we have this channel, which is I do this lifeguarding in the summer. And then also I have my medical channel, which is Scrubbing Up with Dr. Michael Kachmar. If you guys want to get a hold of us and get on the show or communicate with us, the way to get a hold of us is Dr. Kachmar. We'll put it up right now for the podcast people. It's Dr. Kachmar at iCloud.com. So that's Dr. Kachmar at ICLOUD.com. We also have a web page, which is Jersey Shore Foot and Leg Center.com. Jersey Shore Foot and Leg Center.com. You can send information there. Also, Sean, where else can they get a hold of us?
They can follow us on Instagram at lg.association.
Can you put that up for our people there? So, and if anybody's on podcast listening to us, or you guys could go to the YouTube video. We're live right now, and you could see what you could find these things. Also, please subscribe. If you're watching this YouTube video or you see it downstream, or you're on even a podcast, come and subscribe to us. Hit the bell so you know when we're going. We'd love to get comments. You guys could comment right now. We're live. If anybody wants to say anything, we'd love to hear from you. So
I think we already do have a comment. Uncle Mark says, "What's up, gents?"
Oh, that's Uncle Mark.
It's my uncle.
Uncle Mark. Okay,
he's another one of our biggest fans. He watched just as much as Adam. What's up, Uncle Mark?
Well, thank you for watching us. We love it. So anyway, how you guys want to start this? You want to start?
Nick Caputo on today.
So why don't we Nick? Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what your lifeguard background has been, because this is a lifeguard show, so we want to at least get that out of the way. And then go ahead. So go ahead. Well, thanks for coming, by the way. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No, we love it. So go ahead. So tell everybody who you are and what you are and where you've been and where you're going.
So my name is Nick Caputo. I am an ease restoration or disease reversal specialist. I teach fasting, diaphragmatic breath work, urine therapy, a lot of different concepts and modalities to help people restore ease to every facet of their life. So I lifeguarded back in the day in Seaside Heights with both Sean and Tyler and Kachmar, and now I just guard lives in a different way.
Ooh, wow. I like that. What do you think about that, Sean?
Did you prepare that?
I thought of it when Kachmar said you're still a lifeguard anyway.
So what years did you lifeguard? Because my memory is so. Phil, and when did you? How old were you when you started?
I was 16.
Wow. So were you junior lifeguard at all?
Yeah.
Dude, I remember.
There you go. See,
yeah, he was a junior lifeguard. I remember the first day you showed up to work. We went for a run together, and I was like, "This kid's working."
Indians. I remember that.
Dude, you looked like you were 12.
Yeah, I was a fetus.
I could not believe that this kid was like gonna be sitting up on the stand.
So how many years did you a junior lifeguard for before you went in?
A lot. I was a junior lifeguard in Ortley first when I was like 8 or 9 years old with Danny, and then we switched to Seaside Heights when I was maybe like 12.
Yeah,
from 12 to 16, so like 4 years.
Wow. We've been talking about how important the program is, and it's because we're a little concerned about, not concerned, but 16-year-old kid on the bench, but with the background of 2-3 years of being a junior lifeguard, you got a lot of experience coming there.
Yeah, I felt totally ready when I first came in.
I love that. Yeah.
Like, and surfing my whole life too. So
That's another thing.
just
Yeah.
like just understood the ocean. And
Yeah.
I mean, we did learn a decent amount of things in junior lifeguards that was helpful for when I started. Like I kind of knew what to expect already coming in, at least with work.
Yeah, that's one thing about I loved about surfers hiring surfers, because we had surfers over the years, but surfers always know the water. I mean, they know when the tide's changing, they know what the swell means, they know what a run is. The only problem with surfers, one of the problems is that when there's big ocean, you guys are like chomping at the bit to get out there.
Yeah,
That's the hardest thing.
The one time,
sit there and watch those beautiful waves.
Yeah, it was like lightning and raining, and I was just like, I need to get out there. That one day rookie year, where it was like 8 footers and it was clean and it was just pouring rain and lightning. I was like, please let me go. Let me go and get like 3 waves on herring.
Yeah. That's what happens.
Nice. On the rescue board.
Yeah.
So how many years did you work on the beach then?
2.5.
2.5. Right.
And then I went to Funtown Beach for another, like, I don't know. Like
oh, that's right. Yeah. So people don't know, that's a private beach where there's alcohol and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right next to Seaside Heights.
That's did it have when you worked in Seaside Heights? Can you remember any like big time rescues or anything, or I mean, always like to get one story.
My first ever rescue, I was sitting at 3-man with McQuaid and Megan Myron. And
okay.
We had a rescue. It was this really big lady. She was in there with like Jordans on and sweatpants on and went in the water and got all fucked up in the shore break. And I had to go get her. And I remember holding this lady like this. Like,
and you were drowning.
I got you. And I'm drowning. Like
she's about 400 pounds. Yeah.
Yo, love the animation on the story. Just try to keep the mic like here when you're talking.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
It's funny. It's funny because I always tell these guys, watch the people. I remember, I forget who was sitting on Lincoln, and there was this guy in the shipping lanes, and he looked funny to me. And I went down there and I said, call him in. And lifeguards who were sitting in the stand, I don't know if it was one of you guys. This guy comes in, right, and he's getting in. It was a calm day, but he was like right at the edge of the bar.
Oh yeah.
And as he comes in, he's just getting bigger and bigger as he's walking, and this water's getting lower. And this guy was probably the biggest human being I've ever, was able to, that fat, that big, and able to still walk. He was easy 450 pounds. I've never seen, it was just amazing. I said to the lifeguard, I said, can you imagine if you had to rescue him? I mean, you couldn't get your arm. It would take 3 of us to hold hands to go around this guy. And it would have taken like a what do you call it? A winch on the truck to bring him in. I mean, I said,
we're not here to fat shame, guys.
All right. So
let's fat floats.
Yeah.
There you go.
So anyway, but that's great. So you had 2.5 years, and then you went over. How long were you at the other place for?
At least I want to say 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what year I stopped. I was 21, I think.
Did you
22?
The year that you broke your neck, was that before or after you stopped working at Funtown?
That was before.
Because I know, okay, so I know that was a big part for you on your journey with what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I broke my neck when I was 20. That was the winter. It was like January.
What were you doing?
2019, snowboarding in Colorado.
Oh wow.
It was my first attempt at a backflip on a snowboard.
So
that whole summer before I was doing
unsuccessful.
it on a wakeboard. Unsuccessful.
Okay.
Just checking.
Yeah.
So you weren't just doing normal, just. You were doing acrobatics.
Yeah, like we went out to the backcountry at A Basin and we built a ramp and like off the cliff and just
all right.
sent it.
Yeah.
But,
I don't want to scare people about if they want to go skiing, stuff like that.
Oh, no,
I mean, I didn't land on my head. I landed on my feet, but I landed like more on my front foot, and I had like a smaller board. It wasn't really meant for the powder that we were in, so my board sunk into the snow, and I just like tomahawked like 5 times, like head, feet, and broke my C6.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you break your C6. What happens like immediately after that?
So I had a lot of time to kind of like sit by myself and just like think about what I wanted to do with my life, and realize kind of like the patterns that I was in, like with the drinking and messing with drugs and doing a bunch of stupid shit, and kind of being caught in this lifestyle of going out all the time and like not really like doing anything beneficial for my life. And, realizing that everybody who I was surrounding myself with is still doing the same shit while I'm home. And it's like, all right, where is everybody now? Like, let me give a fuck about me for once. And I just wanted to heal fast. I wanted to get back to doing what I love to do, which is the extreme sports.
So what?
Let me because you guys know the story. So when you fell down, I mean, were you paralyzed at that time? Could you feel like what was
No, yeah, no.
right that moment, right?
It was
What
a hairline fracture on my C6.
were you able to
So
walk and everything? You
yeah.
had the pain, like
I
had you know?
got up after I fell, and then I snowboarded down to the car because we were in the backcountry, and I was like, nobody's coming up here to get me. We're not even at a resort.
For a little bit, Nick was going to the club in the collar. I remember the
Okay.
video.
I did,
Okay.
like right in the beginning.
So you had a scare.
That was before you spent that
Yeah,
time
like
by
I had
yourself.
like a whole thing where my hands clench up and like yeah, my hands clenched up like crazy, and like my friends were like trying to open my hands,
Oh, okay.
and like
Wow.
it was super panicky,
So-
super like
So you
intense.
had that was you had sort of like a an epiphany. I mean, you know it was kind of like you almost died. You could have broke your neck all the way and been dead or crippled.
yeah.
But so that was kind of like that was a moment where that you had this clarity, some people call it. Right?
Yeah,
Is that what
yeah.
happened?
Yeah, and I mean it
Okay.
evolved over time. Like at first, like McKee said, I still tried to go to the club. I went to a
Right, you
Lil
didn't-
Uzi concert with Dan.
Yeah.
Like the first week that I was in the neck brace, and I was still smoking a lot of weed and still just eating like
Right, right.
shit.
Like
before
Nicholas
I-
said, you don't know how heavy it was.
Well,
Okay.
I want to
Yeah.
clarify. I want everybody that's watching to know what your diet was before this: mac and cheese and Nino's pizza.
Oh, yeah.
Like literally nothing else.
Yeah,
I have like
terrible food.
talk about
terrible.
picky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I barely ate anything. Like it was comfort foods, and
Yeah.
didn't eat big portions. Like just wasn't a big eater in general, but was very specific about things that I ate.
So
So
was
we're-
food the first change for you? What was
Yeah,
the
food was
first?
the first one. I mean, yeah, food was the first one.
okay?
But what I'm saying, I don't give me just play. I don't understand what like a lot of people, your age, you're invincible and nothing changes. I mean, I know people more my age. They get a cancer scare or somebody, their brother dies or somebody real quick, and they're like, "That's it, I'm done." So where was it? Was it? So you're saying it wasn't like quick? It was kind of like that was the first thing that kind of, hey, what's going on here? Like,
Yeah,
what?
there was so much stuff. I mean, I started to do some research on like ancient history and kind of just like understanding the concept of like we've been lied to about some things. So I started to question a little bit about everything. And then I had an issue with heartburn going on, which is a reason why I was such a picky eater. But like the things that I picked to eat also gave me ridiculous heartburn.
Kind of like
And-
perpetuated that.
Yeah, and I was going
So
to
health. So
I was
yeah.
going to the doctors, and they just kept giving me different pills: Dexalon, Zegarid, Nexium, all this different shit.
Right, right.
And I was like, I'm 20 years old. You guys can't fix heartburn. Like there has to be an issue here. Like I shouldn't have to take a pill for the rest of my life at 20 years old because I get acid reflux. Like this is absurd.
Right. Yeah.
There should
So-
be like a nutritional fix to this.
Yeah, I was like, it has to be do with what I eat, and I know that I eat like shit. So like there has to be some kind of solution. So I
So
just started doing my own research.
Yeah, you were
and-
smart enough to at least acknowledge it was your issue causing it to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, especially after I stopped drinking, like after the first like week after I got out of the neck brace, I was like, all right, let me stop drinking and just like stay home and like heal so I can get back at it. And then I really wanted to dive in and see like what I can do to my body to help me heal faster. And they told me it was going to be 2 years in a neck brace. I went fruitarian about a month into the neck brace thing. And then I was out of the neck brace within 3 months.
Describe a fruitarian for people listening.
Fruitarian, I was eating only fruit.
Where did you stumble? Because I'm very interested in knowing like where you find your research. So where did you find this fruitarian stuff to begin with?
So initially it was on Instagram.
Okay.
Carter actually sent me a page
Uh-huh.
called Alkaline Human. And this dude, Tyson Murray, he lives in the UK. I actually met him in Tulum a couple months ago. He introduced me to the concept of fruitarianism and fasting. But I started out with just the fruit because I was terrified to drink green juice.
Uh-huh.
Because I was
What kind of juice?
green juice,
Oh,
which I didn't do until the next summer, which was about 6 or 7 months later.
Me and Dan tried the green juice once. It's not fun.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like, some are really bitter. Like the dandelion is really not good, but like cucumber and
Super
celery
bitter.
are pretty good.
Okay.
Like it depends on what you're doing.
That's dandelion root,
Dandelion leaf.
dandelion leaf.
Yeah, dandelion root is more like an herb. You would make like a tea with that.
Okay.
But yeah, with the fruit, like, and I was picky, so I literally just ate blueberries and cantaloupe for like a couple months,
And was the effect immediate?
4 days. I didn't have heartburn anymore after 4 days, and it was the first time since I was like 5 years old in my entire first time that I could remember that I didn't
Wow.
have heartburn without a pill.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, this is some truth here. And then kind of, you know how people are like super skeptical and like hostile in Jersey. Like I had to defend myself to everybody. So it kind of like I dove deeper into the research and started learning more about why it was effective and why it felt like truth to me so that I could defend myself to people.
You know, that kind of answers one of my next questions, which was you do get a lot of people like pushing back on the stuff you share.
Yeah.
And the way, like, I wanted to ask you how you deal with that, like how you handle like a hater.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's less now than it was. In the beginning, it was a lot more backlash, and now like I have a community that's pretty large that understands the main concepts that I present. But there are still, you get people in the DMs like just saying stupid stuff, or people in my comments. One thing I do on Instagram is just to like protect my energy and set boundaries. Like my trigger finger's on the block button all day. I block people all the time, and that's just to keep the comment section available for people to learn. People ask good questions. I give people answers in the comments. So I block people so that people who are looking in the comments to learn aren't distracted by nonsense, and people that are just like skeptical for no reason without actually looking into my work.
There's a difference between asking like a genuine question and just spreading hate and
Exactly
shitting on you, basically.
Exactly. I love questions, but I'm not here for ignorance.
So let me ask you this: why do you think people? Because I wanted to ask you about how your diet is, your research based, and I'm a big proponent about clean living, and I think that as a physician, food. You should have been on my other show. Really, we should bring you on my Scrubbing Up, seriously, because we push, we're all about vitamins and stuff. We have isotonic stuff, but I don't, a lot of the stuff that we give, like for your heartburn, you're talking about these acid reducers, they're bad. I mean, it's and a lot of I used to, when I started practicing, Dr. Lario was a primary doctor. I have people today have come in with 15 to 20 different medications they're taking. We have to reconcile it. It's amazing. I mean, I'm not kidding around, guys. So and some of these people are not that old. I mean, but they're 15. How can you even take that? But getting back to this other thing about hate and everything. Why do you think people why you have a lifestyle, like I see this too with people who are like, I'm a vegetarian, or I only eat fish, or and like people get angry. Like, why? Do you have any idea why? Where are they coming from? Like, are they like narcissists? Like what?
I think they're threatened by their own mistakes. Honestly,
it's a combination of that, like just emotional triggering, and
why would be? I don't get that.
And it's conditioning. I feel like we're conditioned to identify with a team. So like whether it's Republican, Democrat, or like carnivore, vegan, like there's so much like divide and conquer strategy with society. So it's like, all right, if somebody eats meat or someone doesn't eat meat, then everyone is like, who's on the other team just loves to like throw hate and like throw information around. And it's just, it prevents everyone's growth, to be honest.
Yeah, it really does.
It sounds like these people are very superficial, but anyway, that's an interesting thing that you brought up, Tyler, about
it's like identifying with ideals or identifying with like concepts, where it's like that what you eat is like part of your identity, where like when someone does something different, it like threatens your identity. Like your identity might be wrong. So now
it is weird because you see that in everything. Like, I'm wearing this sweatshirt, right? Like I saw someone wearing a Liverpool sweatshirt, I'd like flip them the bird or something.
We're gonna get comments about screw Man U. Like
if we had enough people watching, I'm sure we would. But it's funny how like one of the places that pops up with the most intensity is when it comes to people's diets, like vegans or carnivores, or like I'm gluten-free and like this is the best way to eat.
Well, it's just I don't understand the whole thing. So
it's super tribal.
It is, yeah. So let me ask you this: because I didn't know where we were going to go with this. So just because now you piqued my thing about medicine. So there's usually two things when people have a choice on diet and lifestyle. There's what they take in that's different, and what they don't take in. So in other words, so what have you not cut out? Like, what is the things that you would say in your research and your experience now are bad, that shouldn't be used or taken or eating and lifestyle that's negative, so out, and what do you bring in? Because they're two different things. So what went out and what came in?
So I can give like kind of like a general statement here, because my perspective has evolved over the years, but more or less getting rid of anything that's not from a living organism and that's not alive.
Well, slow down now. Getting rid of say
everything
it again.
That's not from a living organism.
So in other words, you want to have stuff from a living organism.
Yes, only consuming things that are alive from a living organism. For example, I don't drink water. I only drink coconut water, my urine, or juice. So I don't drink water because it's not from a living organism.
Okay.
So like Yeah.
What if you
or-
took what if you took well, I guess you could, yeah. It's okay. It's okay.
So I don't consume anything dehydrated, anything that's not still alive. So anything like without carbon attached or anything that doesn't have life force in it any longer. So anything dehydrated,
Why carbon
inorganic
attached?
salts.
Why carbon
Well,
attached?
every molecule of every living thing on Earth has carbon
Yeah.
attached.
Yeah, but,
So
but
once it's
What's the
dead,
important thing about that? Carbon.
that's like the life force. It's like the melanin or like dark energy, whatever. There's a lot of different names for it.
but you'll
I have a book about this called Organic AI that covers this in detail.
but when you eat meat or whatever, so you'll eat meat, right?
I've never eaten meat in my entire life.
So, but you'll eat something. So, but my point is though, is that everything has water in it. You know, I mean, to a certain degree. But you won't
Not
take the
everything, but most things, yeah.
right. So I guess, but so the water has to be from a living organism.
Yeah, the water has to be structured. So rather than H2O, it's H3O2.
All right. All right. So you get rid of, so nothing that's not living. What about like processed food? Or you get rid of all of that, like processed stuff?
Yeah, so it's pretty much like
So again,
going more to nature with your food and away from corporations. The corporations and the mass producing of food is really what fucks everything up. Like I don't even really prefer to get fruit from Whole Foods. Like I'll order from like a place in Miami where I know the people that are growing it and like they ship it to me if I'm in Jersey. Or, I go to this Amish farm in PA to get like raw dairy, like raw goat milk and stuff like that. So I'm not totally on the vegan wave like I used to be, but I'm all for like natural local foods or like, locally produced foods, no like mass production, because the mass production of the animals leads to genetic modifications in their proteins, like the A1 versus A2 beta casein proteins in the cows, like the Holstein cow versus like the goats that are less genetically modified with the A2 beta casein proteins, or, like the mass production of fruits where they deplete the soil, or, the vegan agenda like to think that, oh, we're like fake righteous, it's like, oh, we're not killing animals, we're like up on our high horse because we're all righteous, but like how many insects and beetles and squirrels and like rodents are killed in the mass producing of the oranges that you're getting at ShopRite?
Yeah.
So it's like the same thing, like everybody's got blood on their hands if they're buying anything from a major corporation.
I will admit I've eaten squirrel.
Really?
And oh yeah, squirrel, deer, and I've killed them too, unfortunately.
Like?
I don't remember. You probably chicken, probably. Everybody says
Everything
chicken.
tastes like chicken.
I was in Colorado, and we had what the hell we have, all kinds of stuff, bear, and I've had crocodile or alligator, but so it has to be organic based.
Yeah, well, the word organic when it comes to marketing really just means no pesticides, and it really just means no synthetic pesticides. So even organic foods, like if you go to Whole Foods and you get like Driscoll's organic blackberries, they're just using organic pesticides. So they're still killing bugs. It still has poison
And
on it.
it's still mass produced.
Yeah, like they use like poisons that come from plants and other things to kill the rodents and stuff, but they're still pesticides and they're still poisonous.
We talked before all this about like how tribal and threatened people get by people's eating opinions. Like, and Nick's saying some stuff that I feel like people might be triggered by, but we've known Nick since before he like who he is now, and he has such like a calming presence. You're a completely different person now. It's insane.
Definitely, I used to be a psychopath.
Oh my god.
Oh, we were worried about you. I think
yeah.
I think we all made that clear like before you broke your neck. So like.
Well, see, I would say from my perspective, an older geezer, you're a character, and I forget who, but I remember sitting on it. No, but I remember sitting on a stand. But here's the thing about life. I'm sitting on a stand one day. I forget who I was sitting with. And it was like a Sunday afternoon, and all of a sudden I hear this, bzzz, and there's a freaking
the
drone like right in front of me, like about 5 feet above me, just hanging there. And I'm like, what the hell is that? So I call, I got a drone here. And they're like, that's who's that down there? Yeah. It's pretty wild. I said, that's pretty neat. I thought that was pretty neat. See, the thing in life because life could be really, I mean, there's like now, people dying and with Corona, it's always good. When you have something like that, the characters in the world, that breaks up the day. That, having the drone there, right, like 5 feet above my head, changes your whole attitude. It's actually good. When I remember once we were taking this big test in medical school, and it was very hard. And it was very scary. And you go from one station to the next with they have like an arrow pointing through somebody's chest and say what nerves were injured, what muscles, what defect it would be. Really tough stuff. And you have only 30 seconds or maybe a minute to answer the question. But as you were going along, somebody had enough time to write like on the card, like a joke, like what's black, and the next one, what's green, and then all the way down, and you get the answer at the end. And you're like, first of all, you blows your mind. Like is if I thought the teacher was doing it just to give us, calm us down. But that kind of like either it was a student or the teacher playing with our minds, but it was a good way to reduce your stress.
Yeah.
And so characters like you, and not say you're a character, but when you were doing that was a great gesture. And it just made me laugh, and I made me feel that the world's a better place because not everybody's the same.
I love that.
It's true. It's true. I remember that. That was great. I love that.
Yeah, I really have tried my best among like my evolution to kind of like release judgment, because when you like a lot of the vegans, like when you learn about veganism and you learn why you want to go vegan, it's very like centered on like righteousness and thinking like there's right and wrong, and that like everything isn't a learning experience. Like I don't necessarily think that anything is inherently wrong, but every cause has an effect. And as you do things that are supposed mistakes, you continue to learn from them. So I'm all about the process of trial and error. Like if you are curious about something, if you hear an idea, if you hear me present a piece of information, like what I think about people who have opinions on things that they've never done, that literally is like the definition of ignorance. You're choosing not to experience it and then forming an opinion based on what you think about it. And that's ignorance. And that's not really what I advocate for. I'm all about trial and error.
Well, the thing about not eating meat, just to take a little train here, there's when I had studied comparative religion in college, and there's a very interesting individual named Joe Campbell, and he has written, he's dead now, but he had, I don't know how many, 20, 30 books. He's a professor. And here's the thing. We have to answer this question, among other things. Where did we come from? Where we're going when we die? What happens when we die? But the big thing is, why do we have to a large extent, kill to survive? And I don't mean killing other human beings, which we do, but kill animals. Because if we kill fish, we kill and you may say, well, we don't have to do that. Maybe we could all eat.
I would say that we don't have to.
Right.
But I wouldn't say it's wrong either.
But my point is, though, is let's just say that the amount of people on the earth, to get the protein and everything. Let's just say that you have to do that. Why do we have to do that? See, there's a bigger question I'm just trying to say. It's like, whether or not you believe in God or not, it's a paradox. We don't want to kill. I mean, think about, you raise the pig or, even a dog, I mean, these animals are very nice and they probably, you could almost have like a pet, and then you got to kill them to survive. A lot of people have to do that. That's a conflict. And so I think, based on, when people, give you some of your hard time about vegetarian, is saying, listen, you're just being ridiculous because there's no way, that's a fact of life. So I'm just throwing out why some people think that, but I'm not.
I find it interesting. Like there is duality to everything. So like you can thrive on nothing. You can eat absolutely nothing. I've gone months without food. Yeah. And I've also gone months eating every day. And, through my comparison, through my trial and error process, I've come to the conclusion that I actually do better energetically in pretty much all facets without consuming solid food.
All right, so let's finish with it. So then educate me then. So I'm open-minded. And so so now you're telling me what things you're not going to eat. Is there what else you're not? And then what are you going?
Yeah. So good. We'll go back to that. So I don't eat salt, no inorganic salt, meaning salt like table salt or Himalayan salt.
And
or
why not?
Salt.
What's the issue with salt?
It's super dehydrating. It's not from a living organism. It's dead. It's not living.
But you will get you have to get salt somewhere though, right?
Well, you're made of salt. There's difference, and it's not just sodium chloride. There's magnesium salts, potassium salts. A salt is really just like a combination of a cation and an anion in chemistry. So there's lots of other salts that aren't sodium chloride salt that you do need, but you don't necessarily need to consume them externally. So this is like a major thing with nutrition that's misunderstood or misunderstood, that you create everything you need. The body is an alchemical supercomputer, and it can create all of these things through the breath. So an example that I use for this is urine. Your urine is loaded with minerals. All 102 minerals that make up the body are in your urine. There's enzymes, stem cells, antibodies, neurotransmitters. There's dopamine and serotonin in your urine. There's psychedelics. There's DMT in your urine. So when you consume straight up water with nothing in it, you're basically feeding that water breath to convert it to blood. And then you're peeing it out with all that nourishment in it. So it's like, is the water nourishing you, or are you nourishing the water? You are the nourishment and always have been. So you don't necessarily need to consume things externally in order to have what you need. However, we do have the ability to use plants or animals to basically like steal breath from them in a sense, so that we can grow faster or have extra energy.
Right. So if you don't want to take salt, and that means really no processed food, because a lot of things have salt.
No processed food at all. Like
Yeah,
nothing that
no
comes
way.
from a company.
No way. No. Yeah.
Like the only processing is me like cutting a fruit. That's the
Yeah.
only processing that's getting
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Or like
So,
getting put in a box to
yeah.
ship.
Well, that's not a bad idea. Processed food's terrible. So, and I
don't
think
cook anything. Cooked foods are a no-go too.
but hold on. So the salt, though, is from a medical standpoint, from my perspective, people, way too much salt in their diet, hypertension, big time.
For sure.
So big time. So, so that's not a bad thing,
Yeah. And dehydration, you see it in people that eat a lot of salt in their skin over time. Like as they get older, they get more wrinkly, and like, it's just,
right.
I think that salt is a big contributor for why humans are dying early. We're designed to live a lot longer than we do.
Okay. So what was the next thing? I'm sorry. You said,
The next thing was cooked foods.
so no,
So anything cooked. I don't heat anything above 115 degrees except herbal teas.
now what about, but you don't have meat, so you have to cook the meat. So there's
Even
nothing,
if like I have clients that do eat meat, like I really only recommend eating raw meat.
yeah, your
Wow,
vegetable.
Like raw
Really?
organs, like raw liver or like raw something like that.
What would be the benefit of eating raw liver?
I mean, supposedly there are I mean, it's literally the liver of an animal, so it's like your liver is loaded with nutrition and loaded with like different energy. And I feel like consuming
Yeah,
that would be
yeah.
it.
There-
But I don't necessarily recommend that, but I also don't recommend against it because I have no experience to speak on it. But
Uh-huh.
I know that there are lots of people that do it that look healthy.
No, there's
That's okay.
animals. There's animals who do it. I don't know if it's sharks that just eat the liver. I know there's animals that they
I
go
think,
for.
I think wolves, the alpha wolf gets to eat like the liver and like another organ, just being the
Probably
Yeah,
the
it's
heart,
high
right?
Yeah.
protein. Yeah. Well, we used to, when I was a kid growing up, my mom, they would get liver from the butcher, and they would make,
Yeah, and I
Liver
guess like
is
the
gross.
mineral contents would be higher in organs
Yeah,
compared to
yeah.
muscle meats or whatever. But either way, like I wouldn't recommend cooking anything because as soon as you cook it, all the nutrients are gone.
Yeah.
The life force is out of it as soon as you cook it.
in fact, we use a pressure cooker to cook a lot of, like when we do like some of the vegetables that are hard, and
Mhm. I also don't recommend vegetables, honestly.
no
I
vegetables.
actually wanted to
So
ask
go
you
ahead.
that, like grains and vegetables. What's your position on those?
I don't recommend either. Most grains are starch,
Uh-huh.
so it's basically like eating alcohol. It's complex chains of glucose that the body doesn't break down fast enough before the fermentation to ethanol or alcohol, which feeds like thrush and candida. So I really don't recommend eating grains whatsoever.
Is that why, like, when you have a big bowl of pasta, you feel like sluggish?
Yeah, 100%. You're literally that's like the crash, like the
Uh-huh.
food coma. That's the fermentation.
They call it the
That's the
itis.
conversion to alcohol.
Okay,
Yeah.
so wait, let me get this.
You're
So,
food drunk.
so no salt, no vegetables whatsoever.
Yeah, no vegetables. Most of the vegetables are starchy too. And
Okay.
most of them are high in oxalates. Basically, everything that's green in nature, for the most part, is green to tell you that it's not for you to eat. We're not herbivores, so most of them are loaded with oxalates and other and they call them anti-nutrients, like oxalic acid that binds to minerals like calcium and magnesium that prevents you from being able to absorb them. So
Right.
they're literally meant to to protect the plant because plants evolve to protect themselves without having to move. So they do so chemically.
So when there was a book came out, a couple, and I studied it. It was about how man evolved over time.
Mhm.
And so we were basically hunter gatherers. We would have meat very once in a while when we kill, whatever, a bear or an elephant, whatever those things. And then we would get fruit from the trees and grain. And then once, civilization came around, we'd have more grain and then, also meat. In the United States and Europe, the United States, it really blew up with the meat. But so how do you reconcile, just real quick, what you're doing with the evolution? How did man, like say, what we've been on Earth for what, 4,000? I don't know how many.
We've been
Did
out-
you
we've been
say
here for-
4,000
we've
No,
been
years?
here for
40.
millions of years.
50,000 years.
We've been on Earth for 2,000 years.
No. How long human, Homo sapiens? So
More than
but how?
that.
But
We've
how,
been around here for millions of years.
As
History
humans,
is,
you think?
Yeah, history is very, very different. Than
Oh,
we've been led to believe.
I'm way into that.
If
like,
anybody's like researched Tartaria, there's a global civilization of people that was here like less than 300 years ago, and there's architecture all over the world, like in basically every major city all over
300
the
or
world.
300,000?
300 years ago. And there's an event known as the mud floods where a lot of these bigger buildings sank. So you can see buildings all over the world, Chicago, San Francisco, all over like the Middle East, all over Asia, all over the world, literally everywhere, even in the ocean.
300
300 years ago. And
So
around
within
1820.
recently recorded history.
Yeah. where like it's been covered up. But I mean, all these buildings are
Tartaria?
everywhere. Tartaria is what it's called. It's
I will
it's
be
the
watching
word that
YouTube
refers
videos on
to
that
the
tonight.
study of this major civilization that
well,
that
see,
was
like,
around the world.
I believe that I've never heard of Tartaria,
Mhm.
but I believe that we have as a civilization before what is it called? Like all the like the Great Flood
Yeah.
that they talk about. I think it's called the Younger Dryas.
hmm
And that coincides with the ending of the last ice age, like a meteor hit and just demolished civilization. This was like within the last like 40,000 years, I think, maybe a little more recent. But I believe that before that, we were sailing all over the world and we had cities all over
There were
all over
blimps,
the
there were
coasts.
cities. We were so advanced. And these buildings are not just regular buildings. Like they're all built with sacred geometry. Like the geometry and the architecture of these buildings are astounding.
Well, I mean,
Like,
just look at the
we
pyramids.
don't have the
No one,
technology to replicate them today. The pyramids,
nobody
the pyramids
knows.
aren't even the craziest thing on earth.
Apparently,
There's
they're like
rocks.
super conductive. The pyramids.
I've heard that too. I think I actually did a podcast on this, an episode on this.
Plug
with-
your
with
podcast real
someone.
quick.
The Grub from the Garden podcast. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. But we did an episode about the pyramids and how they were actually basically like chemistry labs. Like they were used
Wow.
for chemical reactions to create things to help them. Who knows? But like to grow food and do different things. But I mean, in Tartaria, like throughout the world. I mean, Tartaria is a specific region that people now use to refer to the worldwide civilization. But all these buildings, like buildings with thousands of rooms, not a single building across the entire world had a bathroom in it, and not a single one had a kitchen in it.
What does this
Really?
mean?
So I theorize that people didn't eat back then. People weren't eating.
I love how you say
And
I
then-
theorize.
And then people, they came into London, and there was what was known as the Great Stink in London. So there was a period of time where all of these major cities were built and nobody was occupying these cities. And then out of nowhere, people just start flooding into these cities. And in London, there was no sewage. So these people came in, started, like eating and shitting, and they didn't have a sewage system in place. This huge, intricate city with no sewage, and they were just shitting everywhere. And the whole town, the whole
Well, they
city
would
of
throw the
London was
stuff
just
out. They would
covered
throw
with
the
shit.
stuff out the windows
had-
every night.
Yeah,
they
they had
would
to
throw it.
evacuate London and put a sewage system in
Right,
place.
right. But
So that just shows you that they found this place, and that's why most of these places say founded in and
right.
not built in, because they didn't build it; they found it.
Founded. Wow.
well, let me
getting a little off
let's
topic here,
No,
wait.
this is-
Yeah,
I
I know we
love
could go
this.
all crazy here, but so what do you eat? How about let's go this way, because I want to, because you're going all, what do you eat? Like what, I know now you don't eat like, so what do you eat on like every day? So the past week, can you give me like an idea, like what was your, today, what's today? Today's Tuesday. So, what did you, or today's Monday. So what did you have, like last week? Like how do you?
So mostly air, and other than that, mostly just fruit.
Fruit.
And I've been experimenting with raw dairy. So my trial and error process has led me to raw dairy.
Do you
for
count
the purpose of, like,
pasteurized?
microbiome.
Pasteurized as raw dairy?
No, pasteurized means it's not raw.
Okay.
dairy.
So milk,
Yeah.
okay.
like raw goat milk, raw sheep milk.
And you have no problems, like you're not lactate intolerant, because, a lot of people
a lot
are.
of the thing is with the dairy is most people aren't actually resistant to lactose. They're resistant to A1 beta casein protein. So like
So that's
when
what
you
I-
get milk or something from the store, it's from a genetically modified animal. So these cows, especially the Holstein cow, which is what you're most likely getting if you're going to ShopRite or Whole Foods or whatever, there's a mutation in this protein. And beta casein protein is a protein, it's a chain of amino acids, 229 amino acids long. So the difference is the 67th amino acid in these new genetically modified cows is histidine, where it was supposed to be proline. So the older breeds of cows have proline as the 67th amino acid, and the newer genetically modified cows have histidine. Now, the reason why this is bad or harmful to the body is that proline binds to another. It's another protein technically, but it's an opioid peptide called BMC7. So BMC7 is linked in studies to type 1 diabetes and schizophrenia and neurodegenerative diseases and lots of other stuff. And the A1 beta casein proteins, this histidine as that 67th amino acid on the chain, doesn't bind to it. So you end up with an excess of BMC7 in the animals themselves, which is why the animals themselves are so unhealthy, and the people that eat them and drink their dairy.
So let me ask you this: Would you then anticipate if somebody who's lactate intolerant would have when they drink lactate milk, would they still have symptoms? if that's
Well,
the case.
I mean, lactose is sugar. It's the sugar in dairy. So it's
Right.
nobody's inherently allergic to sugar because your brain uses
But that's
it as
not. Yeah,
fuel.
but let me tell you, because I tell you personally, if
Uh-huh.
I drink regular milk, I get like big time gas. If I
Yeah.
drink lactate milk, which is basically, they add the lactate enzyme,
Uh-huh.
I have no problems.
Oh, they add the okay, yep. So basically,
so
it's
in other words,
almost like a kefir type thing, like where it's like consuming itself in a sense. You have the enzyme to break down the lactose.
right. Well,
to help you out.
about 10 after you're born, you have the gene to produce lactate enzyme while you're breastfeeding, and then you lose that over time because you don't need it, because theoretically you don't breastfeed anymore. Well, most of us don't anyway. Speaking
of breastfeeding,
yeah.
I have a question for you, Nick.
But wait, let me answer this. But let me answer this. So that's different then. So that's different than the lactate. In other words, I'm asking you just drink milk. I asked you if you were lactate intolerant. But what if people want to do your diet and they're lactate intolerant?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't
What happened
recommend
there?
raw milk and raw dairy to everyone. There are specific things that I recommend for specific people.
Yeah,
For where I'm at in my path, raw dairy aligns with where I'm at because I'm working on some microbiome stuff from taking a lot of antibiotics back in the day and not being breastfed.
So because I'm very interesting. So now the fruit. So all you eat is fruit. There's no, there's no. So how do you get and what kind of fruit do you eat then? Is there, like I love Chinese apples, pomegranates,
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I love those. I actually feel energized when I eat one of them. Really, I do. I mean, maybe it's in my head, but
I mean, fruit is electric.
and like they're right now is the season, but what fruits do you we recommend to our listeners? Like, what would you?
I mean, there's so many different ones. I would say more like it's easier to say the ones that I don't eat because there's less. I don't eat Cavendish bananas. I don't eat anything like starchy, and I don't really eat avocados anymore. That's pretty much it. I mean, I pretty much eat whatever fruit as long as it's not from like
Why not
a
bananas?
store. Cavendish bananas are basically they're starchy.
And
So they're basically just like genetically modified.
for people listening,
bananas.
Cavendish bananas are like the generic ones you go.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Like I would eat like a baby banana if I'm in like Jamaica or if I'm in like Costa Rica. Like I'll eat
From
like
the
the
tree.
local bananas. Yeah.
Do
So
you supplement in any way?
No.
No.
Can't supplement what's already complete.
Now you don't take any vitamins or anything like that.
No.
Okay. So what's interesting, what you're saying is that, I'm just, as you're talking to me, I didn't prepare for this, but I was just reading a documentary on Captain Cook, because I'm a sailor and everything. So Captain Cook, he did, back in the day, one of the biggest problems with sailing was scurvy, which is lack of vitamin C. And so they didn't have fruit, and they thought it was a lot of different reasons, but nobody really knew. And a lot of sailors died. So Captain Cook was beyond his time, and he had an idea that, he was really about cleaning. He actually, this is in the 16th, 17th, 16 or whatever. He would mandate that the boat be cleaned with vinegar. He didn't even know about, they didn't know about bacteria and stuff. He would sanitize the boat with vinegar. But anyway, he would bring fruit. And one of the things that they would have is limes. And that's why the English, they call them limeys, because they would have this lime. So it's interesting because fruit is an essential. I mean, you need to have vitamin C or you get scurvy, that's for sure. So I was just wondering what kind of fruit and, how that boiled into it. So,
Yeah. I mean, the main ones that I would eat are the melons. I like watermelon, honeydew, cantaloupe, cucumber, papaya. Those are the melons.
Papaya. Yeah. Papaya is real good. See, papaya is great for your stomach.
Yeah, definitely is digestive stuff for sure.
Yeah. Papaya is real great.
I also like persimmons this time of year. They're in season. They're like candy, the persimmons.
What about mangoes?
I love mangoes. They're not in season right now. They're more of a summer fruit. But
And what about mine?
mangoes.
What about the one that I like, the pomegranate?
The pomegranates are great. I like pomegranates.
This
I
is
like
season.
I like juicing pomegranates too. Honestly, it's one of the few fruits that I actually enjoy juicing.
So, Kachmar, from your doctor opinion, does he look unhealthy to you?
No,
right?
No. I think that if you look at if you go back to history, and or look at people who don't have a lot, there's people living on the islands. I mean, you get coconut juice. I mean, you need water somewhere.
I mean, you could live off coconut water alone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you need. The thing is, what from the scientific stuff that I learned, if you look at from my education, what I learned is that one of the reasons why human beings evolved to our big brain is we started eating meat. We had protein. You can't. There's no way, according to what I read, and you could argue with me, or that the only way you're going to get that much protein that quick is to eat meat. Meat is loaded with protein. So, and you need that for your development. Now, there are people who don't have a lot of meat and they develop. So it's one of those kind of things. That's from an evolutionary standpoint or day to day, but a lot of people in the islands, they'll have coconut water, because they don't have a well. That's how they get their water from, and which they could collect rainwater like cisterns, or they do a lot of fish. They eat a lot of fish, and that's protein. The shellfish, whatever. So that's what I was asking you. So you have fruit, but where do you get your protein from? I don't know. Does fruit have a lot of protein? Because I'm ignorant on this point.
No, so protein
you need
is an
protein,
interesting
right?
concept. I've done a lot of things. See, protein is something that you do need, but not something that you need externally. So that's kind of like back to what we were saying before about how like you are the nourishment. So basically like protein is, and my perspective on history is more so that we were more advanced and more intelligent back in the day, and we're getting stupider since we started eating meat. But
yeah. And when I start seeing more people with mullets, that goes to Tom, right?
That doesn't help the cause.
I think if you go back and look at that, I think everybody back in the day they had mullets, right?
Yeah. So when it comes to protein, right? A protein is a name for a combination and a function of a chain of amino acids. And all amino acids are combinations and functions of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen, with the exception of 2 that have 1 atom of sulfur per molecule. So all of these amino acids that make up all of these proteins are made out of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. Now, these 4 main elements already make up 96% of your natural body weight and are the 4 main elements in the air, with the exception of argon. So carbon dioxide would be the 5th. Argon would be the 4th.
Okay, but to answer my question though, so you're eating fruit, and I don't know. Again, so you could just survive. What you're saying is, for our listeners out there, you could just survive on fruit.
Yeah, you could survive on nothing. You could survive on literally coconut water or on your own urine for extended periods of time.
Oh, extended, but what about long term? Like let's say forever and 10, 15 years. I mean,
there are people who do it. There's this guy Prahlad Jani in India who did like 70 years, no food and water.
Yeah, but how healthy are you too? Or can you function?
He was like a yogi. I don't know too much about him, but they studied him in a lab, and his body was able to basically loop his urine. He was reabsorbing his urine back into his bloodstream, and that's how he was able to recycle his own nutrients, his own water. So he wasn't peeing. Because
I know people down the islands, because I worked in British Virgin Islands for 10 years, doing vascular surgery, and I know people down there. They're very, excuse me. There's not a lot of meat. There's some cows there. There's goats, but they'll drink the milk, the goat milk, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. They'll eat some of the goat, but a lot of them are just strictly the coconut water, the fruit, the mango. I'm trying to think. There's another thing there. They have a couple of different fruits and fish. That's something that they go for and they get their protein. So
I wouldn't say like any of these things are necessary for protein. I would say protein is it's so heavily marketed. Like the protein myth is totally marketed, because I've gone years without eating any protein and felt phenomenal and built muscle more than I was able to when I was eating like shitty protein from like cheese, pasteurized like A1 cow cheese. But I mean, the concept that I was explaining is basically how like the main tools, the building blocks for amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein, are already present in your body and are already present in the air. So there is no lack here. Like your body is an alchemical supercomputer that can create combinations of elements as need be.
Right. You say fruit is electric. So are you just saying it's like the battery help like powering you along or something?
Well, you're electrical as well. Like the only true nutrient is electricity.
Mm-hmm.
When you have electricity, your body can do everything that it needs to do. So this is why I advocate for the idea that you can thrive off just diaphragmatic breathwork, naked sunning, and music.
So you're charging yourself through these other things besides food.
Yeah. Well, these things are food. They're just, I call it food density reduction. They're less dense forms of nourishment.
Yeah. Well, you talk about sun. You're when you get in the sun, your body makes vitamin D. So you need sun is an important thing. What gets me though is so you're on the fruit. So I understand that, and that's going to give you a lot of things. I'm thinking from the old school, trying to. So you're getting everything you need a lot from your fruit. And I agree with that.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even say that. Most of the fruit is like genetically modified and the soil is depleted. Like I really only eat fruit for entertainment. Most of the nourishment that I'm getting is coming from the breath work.
So what about, before you go into that, what about the milk though? Why are you starting it? Because milk has protein in it.
So milk does have protein in it. I'm consuming the milk for bacteria. So I do more like milk kefir and like fermented milk type stuff because I took a lot of antibiotics as a kid and never got breastfed. So I have a microbiome deficiency that led to like lifelong athlete's foot.
So then what you're trying to do is
Replenish bacteria.
So probiotic kind of stuff.
Yeah,
If-
exactly.
Okay.
Nick, this is kind of a serious question.
Kind of a serious question.
If you had a kid, would you drink the mother's breast milk?
Absolutely. 100%.
Is that, in your opinion, the most like nutrient dense breast milk you can get as a human?
Pretty much, yeah. Like I would prefer human milk over like an animal milk, but it depends on who it is. Like I wouldn't just
It has
do
to
that
be
from
like a
any
healthy.
woman. Like, yeah, it depends on what she eats because like a goat eats a lot better than most humans. So like from that perspective, like I'd actually probably prefer the goat over like someone who like drinks alcohol's milk.
Have you tried breast milk?
I have not.
Put it on the bucket
I
list.
haven't. Yeah, I mean,
That's-
when I have a kid,
It's something
one
that
titty for
sounds
me, one titty for the kid.
Well, you said something interesting when we were downstairs that you believe kids should be on the breast until they're like 5 years old.
So at
And-
least 5 years old.
and the
Usually 5
effects
to
that
7.
that has on your jaw structure. And you want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, breastfeeding, like the actual act of sucking on your mother's nipple trains the tongue posture. So it trains the strength and the muscles of the throat and the nasal airway to open. Because as you place your tongue on the roof of your mouth and you suction your tongue to the roof of your mouth, you actually open the nasal airway and it makes it easier for you to get breaths in through your nose. And this is known in India or in yoga as the Jiva Bandha.
You know, I did that one time. I went for like a long run and I really focused on breathing through the nose, tongue pressed to the roof of the mouth. And
Probably felt great.
oh, it works.
Yeah.
I felt way less gassed. Like I'm running and I'm like every 20 steps, I'm like, big breath of air through my mouth. But when you do that, it's hard at first because it's a discipline.
You have to get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you're
and-
not, yeah.
And our nose, like if you're not breathing through your nose all the time, it does get a little like stuffed up. It does get
Yeah,
harder to
yeah.
breathe. But even if you take 20 minutes, that first 20 minutes of your run to just really focus on pressing your tongue to the roof of your mouth, breathing through your nose, in, out. I mean, the difference is insane and it gets easier.
Definitely.
So-
Yeah, it's
so-
something you got to work on over time for sure.
Right. Let me throw
But
this
when
thing.
you do, it gets easy.
Let me throw this thing about breastfeeding because you guys, because I'm the doctor in the room here, and I got it. So one thing about breastfeeding, why it's so good, is the mother is passing antibodies to the child, and if you, again, don't believe what I tell you, but there's big studies.
Monoclonal antibodies?
What's called what's
Monoclonal
no
antibodies?
antibodies. But if you look at what's interesting is polio, and I'll go real brief with this, but it talks about nutrition and breastfeeding. Whether or not if you believe in breastfeeding, that's great. I believe in breastfeeding, but we may have different reasons, and it may both are right. But one of the things that was shown and proven in a lot of studies is polio was always around. And what happened with polio, it's in the dirt, and you ingest it and it goes out your poop. So back in the day, before we had as much sanitation, people weren't taking showers. That's another
I
thing.
don't take showers. either.
Right. But so listen, right. So that's because it's great stuff we're talking about. So people got to realize, so back before the turn of the century, nobody really took showers. You had an outhouse. So, and there was no processed, formula. So you drank milk, breast milk. I mean, the kids got breast milk, every kid, or they die. That was pretty much it. They could give, but they also would be fecal contamination, big time. So what happened is, follow me on this one. The parents would have the polio viruses around. The kids get breast milk. The mom has antibodies that they push through into the baby against polio. The kids get contaminated when they're very young because it's dirty. You got outhouses. I don't know if you ever lived in a
But
cabin.
you want this, right?
Right. You
build
want,
resistance. It's like-
right. So now you get the resistance and they don't get the polio. What happened is the turn of the century, right around the 40s and 50s, what happened in the United States pretty much right after World War War II, is two things happened. That one is they came out with formula. And so, it was easy,
Terrible.
a baby, give the baby the formula. And once you give the kid formula,
That's what I
sugar
got.
in it, right? Sugar, right? They get on that, right? So they're not getting now the mom's breast milk, and they're not getting a lot of benefit. One, in my opinion, was the antibodies. And then they don't get contaminated. They don't get, because what do we have in houses? toilet bowls, right? We have toilet paper. We have showers. We start taking a shower once a week. And then maybe now, everybody takes one once a day. Some people do anyway.
Some people, this
Right,
guy
right,
takes them multiple a day.
So what happens is, what happened in the 50s, polio, bang. How people got it? Like the one famous one, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He was like 14 or 15 or maybe 20, I forget. And he was swimming in a lake or a river, and it was fecal contamination. And that's how people got polio. It's interesting. We give the vaccine now, which is another whole thing about vaccines we could probably get into. But, really, if we went back to the old way of breastfeeding and fecal contamination, we probably wouldn't need the polio vaccine.
Yeah,
but unfortunately,
I don't think any vaccines are necessary, to be honest,
so
helpful.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought it was about breast. So you're all for breastfeeding
I'm
babies.
all for breastfeeding. I mean, every mammal breastfeeds, like every land mammal at least breastfeeds, and it's just the way that, why would your mother create milk if it wasn't to give it to you?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just the way that nature intends. So I can name like literally a million reasons why it's beneficial. Because that's the way it's supposed to be.
Say you're a kid whose mom wasn't so healthy when you were born and you were being breastfed by her. Would that have an effect on you? Like what?
Yeah, for
how
sure.
Dramatic?
I mean, it's a blood derivative fluid, just like the urine is. It's basically urine, especially when the child is first born. The breast milk is basically your mom's urine. And it's anything that's in her blood is pretty much being transferred to the baby. Like I've had people reach out to me, like mothers that got the vaccine and then through breastfeeding their kids get rashes all over their bodies.
Wow.
Yeah. This is the COVID vaccine.
Right. So, and again, I'll throw medicine to that. Not everything is passed through the breast milk that you ingest. It's interesting. There's also, not everything goes into your
filtered.
Right. There's also a blood-brain barrier, actually, believe it or not. So there's certain medications won't go into your brain or your spinal columns, but the breast milk is somewhat isolated to certain things. What I'm getting here is that you have a very, which I think is a good thing, holistic, natural based, albeit extreme. Me, I would throw, like, I could tell you right now, and I'm not being disrespectful, but I got to have a steak every once in a while. I mean, I'm so bad when I'm operating. Sometimes, like I start in the morning, and this is sickening. I know, and I apologize for this, but like if I don't, sometimes I don't stop for lunch. We just keep operating, and like around 1 o'clock, like I'm starting to, cut, and I see the blood. I actually salivating. How bad is that, man? Isn't that sick? I know, but we're kind of.
You ever see Dexter?
Huh?
You ever watch Dexter? Catch? That's you.
Doesn't that sound a little bit like an addiction? It's like, every now and then, like I gotta have a cigarette.
Oh yeah.
I gotta smoke some weed every now and then. Like, I gotta have some heroin every now and then.
I wonder if it's an addiction or more that some people say. Let me ask you this: what about the concept where people say people crave? There's like different personalities. People crave sugar or they crave sour. Like, man, we've heard that.
It's really emotional. So what you're craving is usually emotional.
So you don't think it's physical?
I mean, everything emotional is physical.
Well, but there are differences. There's physical, and so you could have, but not each one is the same. In other words, some things are mental, like cigarette smoking. They say,
well, that's rooted in like a physical addiction.
But they'll say but they'll say cigarette smoking after 2 weeks, your physical craving of it's gone. I don't know how they prove that, but maybe say a month or 2 months or 5 months. But eventually, it's mental. Like my office manager, she quit smoking, and I took him out for lunch for Christmas, and she had one drink, and she goes, "Oh my God, I want smoke so bad," and it lowers your alcohol for sure lowers your inhibitions.
Yeah.
You're more apt to do things, and so that's psychological. So
I'll explain what I mean by that. Basically, like the physical versus emotional addiction. Like everything physical manifests emotionally first. So the emotional addiction, the addiction to escaping the emotions that you're feeling is what leads to the physical addiction. Mm-hmm. And then after you curb the physical addiction, you're still left with the emotional addiction that caused the physical addiction. Yeah. So they go hand in hand. They are their own separate things, but they are still connected in a sense. So they are like no separation.
Is that part of what you do, like addiction counseling in any way?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, like when I deal with people with diseases, like the hardest part is getting them off things that they're addicted to or getting them out of addictive patterns. Emotional escapism is the one addiction. So
change behavior is hard. In other words, because
and more like acceptance, more like getting people to abstain from behaviors that they are commonly like addicted to, whether it be smoking or eating a certain thing or salt or whatever it is. Like it's the emotional side of why they do those things, which is the root of the problem, which is what actually helps them to get over these things, is to heal the emotions or heal the trauma that led to these patterns of behavior in the first place, not just forcing them to stop doing them and then getting off the physical addiction and still needing to escape in another way. People with cigarettes, they compensate with food or like something else.
It's definitely like a parasitic relationship that goes on when you have an addiction, because you go to this thing that is the reason why you feel like shit, but in that moment it makes you feel better. I think cigarettes are like the perfect example. You know, you have this craving,
or
and
alcohol.
And you're like, oh, I'm this or that, and then if I like, because
even processed food.
Yeah.
Same thing. You eat a tub of ice cream when you're sad, and now you feel like shit, and you wake up the next morning
and you're continue to be sad because you ate a tub of ice cream last night.
And you're shitting hot lava.
So listen. So when you talk about what you do, I was watching this one Joe Rogan episode, and he had this guy. He was one of the comedians with blue collar comedy show, and I forget his name. He's an older guy. I mean, he's got gray hair. Anyway.
Ron White.
Yeah, Ron White. So it was an interview with Ron White. It was really good. And it's now, you're talking about this. So what he's an alcoholic, or he was really heavy duty drinking, and he tried all kinds of clinics. And then he finally went to this one where they gave him this mushroom drink.
It was ayahuasca.
Yeah. And and then he had it's like what's the word I want to use? Hypnotism, and that combined with that, and he says he's all, it is the only thing that really got him stopped drinking. So, what do you think about that? And what's your method? Like, I come to you and I can't stop smoking, I'm just smoking. And what aids do you use? Is it just talking to people? Is it modify, like, how do you get them off to smoking? Or alcohol, whatever, take your pick.
So, I mean, first of all, like, I don't get people off anything. I just give them reasons to get off it, and they decide for themselves whether they do it or not. And I give them, exercises and things to help. The breathing, the breath work really helps everyone get off everything. Like, the more aligned with your breath you are, the more that you realize.
So expand on that. What is that? What is breath? So give me that, because I have no,
So diaphragmatic breath work is breathing exercises that use the full range of motion of the diaphragm. So breathing with your stomach rather than your chest. And there's lots of different stuff. Really, like, the stuff that works the best in my experience as a coach and in my personal experience is the parasympathetic breathing. So slowing down the breath, less than 1 breath per minute for an extended period of time.
So isn't it?
I've done that with him. It's hard.
Right. Isn't this like kind of like, I mean, I don't know, yoga stuff? I mean, don't they?
Yeah, similar.
Or with, I notice people who do breathing. I want to say maybe a Hindu, or I don't know where, but I'm just, reaching now. But I mean, that's something that's not new. That's been around.
It's nowhere near new. It's been going on since pretty much the beginning of civilization.
So you
and probably longer.
So you bring down your breathing rate.
Yeah, it's basically like, we're trained to be super in our masculine, in our fight or flight. We're always giving energy to things. We're always like stressed and always being out and about doing things and investing energy into everything. We never really take time to sit back and recharge. So think of it like the breathing pattern, like the speed of your breath is so important to be aware of. So like if you were in nature and you were getting chased by a bear, right? You start to breathe faster. And what that faster breath pattern does is it brings all the blood away from the organs to the muscles and tissues to allow you to run away from the bear, right? But this is starving the organs of blood and energy at this time. So then when you get away from the bear and you get to safety, you would then sit down and breathe slowly and allow the blood to come back to the organs and away from the muscles and tissues so that you can recharge.
Yeah, flight and fight.
Yeah, so fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight, which is the masculine aspect of the nervous system, the giving energy away aspect of the nervous system. And then the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest part of the nervous system, where you slow down and you recharge. It's the feminine, the receiving energy part of the nervous system. So when we sleep, that's really the only time that we tap into the parasympathetic nervous system. We do it unconsciously. So with parasympathetic breathing consciously with the bandhas, which are muscular contractions that affect the blood pressure in the body as you do the breathing, they allow you to tap into the parasympathetic nervous system consciously and with intention.
Right. So sleep is important, especially REM sleep. So how do you deal with then? So then what you're kind of like talking about is stress too. So how important, how bad is stress, and how do you tell people to relieve their stress? Because there's studies showing that stress.
It's the breath work.
Just the breath work.
Parasympathetic breath work.
So it's not only just breath work. You're calming the mind down. You're isolating your thoughts. I mean,
the thoughts are a product of the breath. So you'll notice that when you first start the breathing, that because you've been breathing so fast all day, that the thoughts are flying through your head. Now, the key is not to resist the thoughts, but rather just to observe them. Allow the thoughts to come through, observe them for what they are. And you'll realize as the observer, as you slow your breathing down, once you keep the breath slow for a period of time, you notice the thoughts start to slow. So frequent fragmented breaths result in frequent fragmented thoughts, and complete breaths result in complete thoughts.
All right.
That
So
makes so much sense.
Do you consider this like you're kind of like taking inventory when you do this? It sounds like. Is this like a form of meditation for you, or would you classify it as something different?
You could say it's a meditation. I would say meditation without breathwork is like driving a car without wheels.
Okay.
yeah. So go back to this then. What physical, do you do any exercise, like physical exercise, like walk, run, swim?
Yeah,
know,
I
so-
run, I surf all the time, swim, free diving.
So that's, well, that can help your breathing there, free diving.
Definitely.
So let me ask you this: what in your, your fruit only, maybe some milk, breathing is a big part of it. So I would call meditation or breathe. That's something that's really important. That could help your stress and get you more in line. Your mind, which is I think is a big important thing. But then the physical aspect, how important is the physical aspect to, you're surfing. So you're kind of like working out. So
The
people out there,
breathing is everything. The breathing is everything.
but do you need to work? Do you think you need to like train or walk or run? Like, does that help?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're designed to do things with our body. We're definitely not designed to sit at a desk all day. Like, part of physical health is the mobility. I mean, and exercise isn't all necessarily healthy. Like, there are improper movement patterns that will lead us to injury over time, and certain positions and postures that do affect the organs in specific ways. Sleeping positions, like sleeping on a bed, for example. I don't recommend sleeping in a bed at all. I only sleep on the floor or on a hard surface.
Wait till you get to 65.
I'm gonna look.
Wait till you call me up when you're 65. You're gonna have one of those special beds that goes, oh, the legs go up, this goes up, heating pad.
Nah, it's only because you sleep in a bed your whole life.
Yeah, well,
Bed leads you to that point.
let me ask you this though. What about so I'm a big proponent about walking. I tell all my patients, because they can't run, they're and I get them. I
Walking
think
is great.
I get them out and I tell them go walk and I also try to tell them to go walk like in the ocean, not in the
Yeah,
ocean,
and
but near.
barefoot without shoes.
Yeah, that's not. Well, I'm good. I'm good with that too. I think that we didn't have shoes back in the day, but to get out into a good environment. I love the breathing though. People. So let me ask you this: how people could get a hold of you if they want to, say, like somebody who's listening to us, they really want to find out about this breathing, and you have a web page or a site or like
Yeah,
how?
so my website is thecaputomethod.com.
Caputo. Can you put that up there?
Caputo method.
Let
THECAPUTO.
Let's put that up there. Do we want to
It's the Caputo
end
method.
this soon?
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, that's it.
I tell you, it's amazing. It's amazing stuff. The funny thing about what you're saying, and everything. I try to, as you're talking, I'm analyzing and trying to see, how it fits into my paradigm,
Mhm.
which is actually you're closer to what I believe in than what I don't. In other words, I would say I buy, probably 90% of the stuff that you said. But listen, I'll never.
10%.
Yeah, what's the 10%?
Well, I and
You don't
again,
want to drink pee?
no, nah. Well, no, people listen. Urine should be sterile, and people who are out
See, I
dying
disagree
survive.
with you there. It should not be sterile.
No, but most urine is sterile. We test it for bacteria. I mean, I do blood work on people all the time, and the way we test it, there's no bacteria unless you got.
Interesting.
Well, if you look at you could research it, but
What exactly do we mean when we say sterile?
no bacteria. Well, we don't. Here's the thing. It's a good point you make. What do I test for? And if we don't test for certain things, we don't test for viruses. We test for bacteria most of the time. So I'm not so sure, but but some people's urine, it should be in a normal person sterile, no bacteria. But whether or not there's viruses, that's a good question. I don't know. I'm not an expert.
So,
in that.
yeah,
I would think
It
way
might
would you
be. It might be.
disagree with that?
loaded with
It could be
bacteria.
fungus in there, but not bacteria unless you have. But here's the thing about what I wanted to, is it's not going to be my position to, the thing about protein and how to get it. I've had patients who have been, vegetarians, and they have a hard time. They start to get symptoms because they're not getting enough, whatever they're doing is not
I
the
can
right
explain
thing.
that too. When people
Okay.
go to eat mostly vegetables or mostly just like non-animal foods, and they end up getting really like bad health conditions because of this. It's not because of the lack of meat, but it's because of the things that they're actually putting in their body. So it's not that they're lacking eating meat and protein. It's more so that they're just consuming starch, which is stealing from them. So you're already complete. The only time that you ever need something is that when you already consumed something else that you didn't need, and now you need something else to compensate for that thing that you took on that you didn't need.
Well, I think that this number one is that I think we eat way too much garbage.
For sure.
So I'm
Even
gonna,
the vegans, the processed shit, definitely.
First of all, yeah. So I'm going to tell you how I look at it, and I agree with you. I think that processed food is the worst thing for you.
Absolutely.
Number one, and that means anything that I like. When you say organic, I like things that are not that they come from a tree or
exactly. If it comes in a box in a package with a company name on it, it's trash.
We disagree. Like I like catching fish and or
I actually don't even disagree with that.
No, but
I just don't think it's for protein.
But right,
I would say that's a great source of those organic salts because the fish can breathe in the salt from the water and convert the inorganic salts in the water to organic salts that you can then consume.
And it's coconut water. I want to hit on that because when I've been down in the Caribbean for 20 years. Every morning, I try. There's in Tortola and a lot of islands. There's like in the morning traffic rush hour. There's a guy there, and they give out coconut water. You come up, they open up the coconut, you drink it, or they'll pour it in a glass and they'll put some rum in there. This is not 8 o'clock in the morning, and then you open up the coconut, you get the jelly, which is the immature. It's not hard.
Yeah.
And I could tell you, there's
coconut jelly is great.
Yeah, and there's a lot of studies about prostate health and all kinds of stuff, but that stuff is really good, and I think that's important. But getting back to the natural stuff, exercise, even just walking,
getting in the sun,
right? Getting
naked.
in the whatever.
Let the sun hit you where the good Lord split you.
I saw your dad in the gym a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
He looks great, and as anecdotal as that story might be, I think that's valuable to share here. Like, how you helped him.
Yeah, I mean, he did a 60-day fast on green juice, nothing but green juice for 2 months, and it helped him reverse his type 2 diabetes. And he ended up not listening to me after that and gave himself a little bit of issues that he's working through now. But when he was listening to me, he really changed his whole life. He lost a lot of weight. Like, he'll never be fat and big the way that he was beforehand.
Bro, he's shredded.
So ripped. He's so ripped.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he
was in there deadlifting.
Was he?
Yeah.
He's such a clown. I tell him, he's got issues with some of his joints.
He might
not to lift heavy weights.
He might have been squatting.
But I know he does.
He might have been squatting, but he was getting that leg.
Well, when you talk about food too, I was just reading an article about food that causes inflammation. Whether or not there's such a thing, but this a couple of people, books that are written about it, and I could tell you definitely food affects everything that you eat.
Absolutely.
So the lack of, and question is, what's the best way to go? And people out there should look into what you're talking about. But look at other places too. But food could hurt you and it could help you.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Catch, I have a question for you actually.
No doubt about it.
Before you say something, I would say what I would recommend as the best thing for everyone to do is to try everything on their own.
I think
and go through a process of trial and error. There are things that work differently for everybody. Some people really thrive on the raw meat. Some people really thrive on the raw fruits. It really depends. Some people go to the raw fruits and end up super skinny and unhealthy. And some people, end up
that's getting, a good point.
Serious stomach problems on the meat. So it really depends on the person. And I really think that trial and error is the best way to do it. And try everything and analyze your body. Do everything with awareness of breath. When
you say that too, that's a great point. But I want to expand on that a little bit.
For sure.
Is that it's everybody's different. And it's also what's a big proponent is age. And you may not think it because you guys are all young, but as you get older, and there's a lot of things, we see more arthritis, we see more gastrointestinal, we see more cardiovascular disease. I mean, it's not too many 20-year-olds who drop dead of a heart attack. It's 50, 60. So something has changed. Now you can forget about what caused it, but I'm just saying is that when anybody who comes into this, where they're at in their life, you talk about laying on the floor, it would be serious. I mean, I have T5 herniated disc, whatever. I have
it takes time to transition to these things. You can't just jump right into it.
But the point being is that it's everybody in their life. It's where we start when we're born. We have certain needs and metabolic processes going on. And then we go all along until, 80, 90 years old, whatever it is. So that whole time train is things are changing and you might have to modify your diet. Well, I hear people say, I've been eating, bananas my whole life. Now I get the crafts when I eat them. I said, well, like I said, your body's changing too.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see myself drinking the goat milk forever. I only see myself doing this to fix this microbiome deficiency and then go back to the fruit
Well,
and the
well,
breath.
okay. What was the question you're going to
Well,
ask me? You
one
had a
thing
question.
for Nick, and then I'll ask you my
And then
question.
I want, before you stop, can you make sure to put his stuff up there?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So
Good. I'm
I
sorry.
think that, especially throughout this conversation, one of the main things that lends you a bit more credibility is like your unwillingness to say, my way is the way. You know what I mean? You're so willing to be like, oh no, like this is how I do it, but we're gonna work with you to figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
And
No two clients get the same strategy.
Well, because a lot of the people you see like in your space, whatever we want to call it, self-help, whatever, guru, whatever you want to call that space, a lot of those people are like, my way is the way, this is the only way to live your life. And I think that's what turns a lot of people away.
Yeah.
It definitely. And it's so polarized. Like there's people that are so on the meat, people that are so on like medical medium, like celery juice and specific things. And it's like, why is nobody combining both? Why is nobody finding the truth in both? Because there is truth to be found on both sides of the spectrum, and there is bullshit to be found on both sides of the spectrum. So people always take one side with the truth and the bullshit, and no one ever decides to combine both truths and get rid of both bullshits.
And this kind of rolls me into my question for you, because one of the things
For me?
Yeah.
I gotta get ready.
This allows me to give people options.
Well, and
when I have a client, they can choose what path they want to go down. There's multiple options for them to choose. It's not like this is the way.
One of the things coming out of this space that gets parroted a lot that I don't know maybe isn't so true is that medical doctors receive little to no nutritional training in medical school. Did you receive nutritional training?
Yeah, that's changed. First of all, that's historically that's been true because there wasn't a lot of information out back in the day. If you look at the FDA, they had this pyramid, and
how much of a joke was that thing?
Right. Then now they changed it again. So we part of it. There's a big study, and I don't want to, but when back in the 50s or 60s, it was too much. The powers be, the powers be, the government decided there was too much sugar in our food, and what they did is they turned it. Or was it too much fat?
Too much fat, and they basically put sugar in everything.
Right. And then if you look at they don't tell you the sugar content, right? So my point is, there's a lot of the what we get fed. I'm talking about from information is based on people making big money. But, like right now, you talk about like animals. Like there's maybe 4 giant slaughterhouses in the United States. And if you are a proponent of meat,
they're mass producing everything.
Right,
Same with the companies that mass produce the fruits and everything.
Right.
Big business.
Right.
Now, when it comes to the sugar thing, though.
So, but let me ask you a question. So you asked me about, do we get? You have doctors now, like this guy right here. He could be, the
amount of research he's done.
No. But there's doctors. I mean, there's a lot of people who are on the same boat as he is.
Yeah.
And they're pushing. But you have big, I don't want to say pharma, but you have big pharma, you have big agriculture, coming at you and squashing everybody. So, but it's changing. So that's why we're doing shows like this right now. This is getting out to, people. So to answer your question, years ago, no, but now we have a lot of other ways to get information. Just like me, I've been in practice for 30 years, and I look at my perception. I'm totally. I think that everything he said is pretty good, except I have a little thing about protein, but that's about it. Everything I've seen people. I see. This is what I base my life on. Is what I see personally. Mm-hmm. I've been down the islands. I've been places where the people eat. They drink coconut water, they eat fish. Maybe a little goat milk, and then they survive for years. They do very well. And so you don't have to have meat. There's a lot of alternatives. Yeah. But you got to have the big thing you said, but you got to have fruit. Fruit's an important. You say you don't have to, but that's with the scurvy and everything. If
you saw me when I was living in the Dominican Republic, I did 4 months. No food at all. I only did cucumber juice for 3 of those months. Yeah. And then following that, I did 3 weeks straight on nothing but my own urine. Just peeing, drinking it, 3 weeks until I stopped peeing. And then I did 15 days with no food and no water. Yeah. And I felt better than I ever felt in my whole life.
But you should look at the studies with, with scurvy and the ships. Definitely there's not everybody got it, but lack of vitamin C is an issue. But you don't have to worry if you do the fruit. So anyway.
It sounds like what you're saying is when you did the cucumber, right? Then you did the urine cycle, and then you went totally off everything.
Yeah.
Sounds like what you're saying is that vitamin C is already available inside of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Okay.
What he's
You already
also
have-
saying is,
once you restore balance, you can maintain balance.
right,
Okay.
The thing is like you can't just stop eating if you ate bread yesterday. Like this is
No.
why people starve to death, because
No.
they eat food that steals from them
I
and then they
ate
don't compensate.
a lot of bread this weekend.
well, you know what, you know, the thing you're saying too is that we're eating ourselves to death. We don't need, I agree with this. This is one thing that, you know, we don't need all the stuff we eat.
Yeah, definitely
We don't,
not.
you know, we don't
no
need,
animal on earth really eats every day.
no,
except like
no,
insects.
no. We don't need all the meat. I mean, you know, we don't need, like I said, so I think that that's really a good point here, that we overeat because we have the ability to do that. And then when we do eat, like I see down the islands too, the younger kids are eating garbage. You know, everything is processed.
Yeah,
They
in
get
the DR, it's really bad. Like they eat really shitty food.
yeah. So because it's easy and it's
So
I mean,
cheap.
yeah, and it's
All
cheap.
the plantains
Right.
and just
Yeah.
all fried shit.
Well, listen, we're going on like an hour and almost 20. So let's listen. This has been a great, I think, really great show. I
Yeah.
learned a lot. I think that, you know, you're giving a good quality, I don't say product, but, you know, telling people to change the ways from my, you know, little world, like diabetes. You know, I have every week I get 3-4 people who I diagnose as diabetes. They come in, they got numbness in their legs, or I do blood work on them. And, you know, I do an A1C. It's called A1C.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Right. And it's so people out there in the audience,
Yeah.
an A1C is a test which tells you what your blood sugar has been over 3 months. And excuse me, they're like 6.2, 6.3. So they're pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
And I try to push them into a nutritionist. I try to get them, you know, and it's hard. These people, like,
And that's rare. A lot of times
it's-
doctors don't recommend any nutritional things for
oh no, we
pre-diabetics.
do. But it's so,
Like with my dad, they really weren't even telling him.
they were
anything
just
about
having
it.
to manage it.
Yeah,
They
they,
still
they,
go-
were considering that they get him on like metformin to like prevent it.
yeah.
And I was like, that's terrible.
But that's
Right.
like that's so crazy to me, because like
it's easy though.
you have diabetes because you're treating your body like shit. The first move should be stop treating your body
Tyler,
like
you,
shit.
This is the
but
thing when
people
it
are not
comes to-
disciplined.
Yeah,
Guys,
this is the
I-
thing when it comes to the medicines, right? Medicines don't help people live longer. They help people die longer. So they allow you to take a longer time to kill yourself in the process. So like they let you continue to consume toxic things. They allow you to keep, or they make you think that you're, you know, continue to do these things without consequences until the consequences build up. to the
That's
point where it's
yeah,
close.
that's he's very
symptom management.
so listen. He makes it
symptom management.
he-
There's snooze buttons in a sense.
right. He makes a good point, because here's the thing. First of all, there's 2 things I want to point out here is human nature. I got people who are their circulation, their leg, they're going to lose their friggin' leg. And I tell them they got to stop smoking. They don't.
And you
I've
just
got
can't-
people
you
who
can't-
have cancer that we treat them and they continue to smoke. I mean, I'm telling you, it's the toughest thing. It's a lot easier when you're the doctor, give the pill, get the metformin. You know, the A1C is, you know, 7, and give him a piece of paper and say, hey, go diet.
But
Right.
as a doctor,
Is
there like kind of like a moral dilemma there?
no,
Because
you can only
know-
do. You got 10 people. They come back. I go, Mr. Smith, did you call a girl? I give him. We give him a whole handout, phone number. We have the girl call them, or
So, you're doing your best to
and they're like, oh yeah,
Some
you
people
know,
don't want to be safe.
that-
you know what
no,
I mean?
yeah.
So,
That's the way it is.
but the other point you're making about, you know, people, but metformin. I just want to make a point about that, because you're talking about, you make a really, you know, intuitive thought there.
Mhm.
Metformin, right, is a diabetic medicine that's given probably first line drug. It's a very good medicine. It lowers your blood sugar. But if you look at the black box warning, so what I mean by that is every drug has side effects, and as the drug goes on in time, people report different side effects. And one of the things that metformin has been linked to is diabetic neuropathy. So just to make a point, some diabetics get this neuropathy where their nerves get degenerated. They can't feel. I mean, I cut their toe off and they don't even know. And then the medicine that we're giving them,
Causes that further.
so you got to watch their B12, B9. So, and there's a lot of medicine. Good example, there's blood pressure medicine. Excuse me.
So like the big,
hydroxychloroquine.
No.
the big thought of this conversation though is that if people were more willing, it's not necessarily the drugs are the problem, it's people's willingness to accept the drugs as an easy solution.
Yes, it's it's human nature. There's a blood pressure medicine, right? There's one chemical in there, and it'll come to my mind, but it elevates your uric acid. So a lot of people who are on blood pressure medicine, all right, get chronic joint pain. They get gout.
Mhm.
And the other thing is erection problems. Now, a lot of blood pressure could be modified by diet, losing
Even
the
just
weight.
breathing
So-
differently, changing, flexing your asshole could change your blood pressure.
Right. But my point is though, is when you made the point that you're giving medication to die longer or, to live a miserable life. It's very true. A lot of the medication we take, not everybody. I mean, there's some people, they could train, they could lose weight and their blood pressure is still shitty. They need to be on
Because they're still eating
medication.
the same stuff.
Yeah. But a lot of people though too,
I've never come across someone with a blood pressure issue that wasn't solved on a fast.
say what?
Like I've never come across a client with a blood pressure issue that wasn't reversed through fasting. Blood pressure specifically.
I think that, well, maybe you haven't, but there are people out there who have, the older people.
Well, have they tried fasting?
Yeah. Well, how long are you going to fast for? I don't know. That's a good question, but I could tell you.
Usually between 30 and 90 days does the trick.
Yeah.
With the green
And
juice.
that's the point, that most people aren't ready to actually pursue what they need to pursue in order to actually get the results they're looking for.
And it's
And
also like this
It's
is
easier to
Well,
take the pill.
point
And
well taken.
I
Point
would
well
say that
taken.
it's not necessarily human nature, but rather more so our conditioning, that we are conditioned from day one, right out of the womb, to take the easy route, to go for, this whole consumerism scenario. We want something, we can just buy it. We can just get this. You want to get big, take this pill. You want to do this, take this pill.
Yeah.
It's always like there's this option in a bottle that's always the easy way, rather than hard work and actually
Yeah.
like putting in effort and investing your breath into what you actually need
Yeah.
to do in order to get the results you're looking for.
No, you're right. That's
So
a good
we're
point.
trained and conditioned into this, but I mean, it is in our nature to strive for better.
Well, on that note, that's a good one. So
Okay.
let's how about we pack it in? It's been a really
Yeah.
hell of a
I'd
show.
love to
man.
have you back on.
Great.
Thank you for
Yeah,
having me
we'll
on, guys.
definitely have you on.
I would love to come
So-
back. For
so
another
let me-
I want to talk more about the Tartarians. What was that?
Tartaria. Yeah, we could talk about it.
We got to talk more about the Tartarians.
Yeah,
next
we'll
time.
get him back on.
Nick,
So
where can people
Kachmar
find
was
you?
having none of that.
no,
Yeah.
not now. That's enough.
Where can people find you,
I'm getting
Nick?
tired.
So you can find
Yeah.
me on Instagram at Grub from the Garden, at GRUB from the Garden. On Instagram, you can find me as the Caputo Method on Twitter and YouTube. And again, my website is thecaputomethod.com.
That's great.
And you
And
can find us at the email is drkashmar@icloud.com.
yeah, so that's Dr. Kachmar, iCloud.com, or Jersey Shore Foot and Leg Center. So for people on the podcast, and my name is
Let me
Dr.
say one more thing.
Oh, sure,
Kachmar, real
sure,
quick.
go ahead.
I'm actually hosting a free breathwork workshop on Zoom on this Friday, New Year's Eve at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So if anybody wants to join in that, there's 333 spots. About 50 are filled up so far.
Wow, that's
So you can go to the link in my bio. I just did one yesterday,
Okay,
actually. The whole 300
so
was
say it
filled.
again. So how do they get on that?
So you go to
okay.
my Instagram, Grub from the Garden, and then you click the link in my bio, and it'll be the first link that says free breathwork freestyle
Okay,
workshop.
say it a little slower now for the podcast people. So okay, so what? So okay, say it again.
So
Take a
go to
rewind it.
Instagram.
Go
and
to
search
Instagram.
Grub from the Garden.
Grub from the Garden.
Yep, like GRUB, like the slang word
From
for
the
eating,
Garden.
From the Garden, and then go to the link in my bio on my account, and then click the first button, which says free breathwork freestyle workshop. 12:31 at 10 a.m. Eastern
Beautiful.
time.
And that's
a
It's
Zoom.
up on
That's a
Calendly.
Zoom.
That's
That
on
sounds
Zoom.
I
pretty
don't
good.
know how seriously our listeners take my opinion, but for what it's worth, Nick is an excellent teacher. He's patient, he's thoughtful, and he's gonna do what he can to help you be successful in these breathwork sessions.
Good.
Appreciate
Good,
that.
good. All right. Well, good. I really like that. Again, to sign off, my name is Dr. Michael Kachmar, and I'm a board certified reconstructive foot and ankle surgeon. This has been Lifeguards Off Duty with Dr. Michael Kachmar. Here's our Lifeguards Off Duty. And we'll really appreciate your visit today. And I hope that you guys, I hope that you come back for sure. And we'll be
Till next time.
Well, we're going to do another show probably
Appreciate
today.
you having me on,
We're,
Cal.
we're going
It's
to do
been a
another
pleasure.
show. We're going to do another show probably in about a half hour.
And
But
until then, stay out and
Oh no, he's got to
Nick
say
has to
no.
say
We got to
it,
get
yeah.
our so good.
Stay out and stay alive.
Eat fruit and stay alive.
What is it? What does Spock
Stop
say?
eating
Eat fruit
starch
and prosper.
stay alive.
What about Spock? Eat fruit and prosper. How can you do the finger? What does Spock do? Who can do it?
This one.
Eat fruit and prosper. All right, everyone. Thank you very much.